You know that you deserve the third best slot, and but you're content with the sixth best slot. You're distorting the ranking, not to challenge up, right? So you have to always challenge up if you think you have a shot of moving up. Rank humility, but you mustn't challenge those much higher ranked, and much higher ranked parties cannot accept challenges from those much lower ranked. No ducking, term borrowed from boxing. One must not decline legitimate challenges to one's rank. That one, by the way, is a big difference from authoritarian norms. No bullying. You mustn't aggress upon challenge those of lower rank. Of course, that makes sense. Why would you challenge down? Fair play. Competition must be fair. This is also extremely unique to honor as opposed to authoritarian ranks. Of course, it has to be fair because fairness is the way we judge excellence. You can compete only against the honorable, friendly play, and rank respect. You must give and demand respect on the basis of membership and rank in the honor group. Okay, so I've provided a Hobbesian reconstruction of agonistic honor and shown how it maybe illuminates the nature of agonism. And then in the last part of the paper, I applied these principles to the question of civil discourse. So these principles help us at all in a modern pluralistic democracy. And I think, yeah, obviously we all know that civil discourse is on the decline by all sorts of measures, okay? This is the "you lied" outburst during Obama's State of the Union just a few years ago. This got some press when the New York Post, the Clintons are, it's their first grandchild, and they post this, party pooper, another liberal crybaby. People are just like, this is a low blow, this is, bad form, this is, you don't do this sort of thing. We know that speakers are being disinvited at unprecedented numbers of universities because of student activists, protesters, or, free speech is dying at the university, free inquiry. And so we all know that there's this problem with civil discourse. Now, non-agonistic theories of civil discourse have a diagnosis. They say, look, civil discourse is declining because we're more polarized as a nation than we've ever been. We're further away from each other. And the solution is that we need to get closer to each other. We need to reach consensus through compromise. We need to look at the evidence. We need to be open-minded. All that sort of stuff that you say in philosophy 101, logical classes, or any sort of academic class in the first week about when you're dealing with contentious issues. And Obama expressed just these views after the Arizona shootings where Gabby Gifford was shot. Agonists, on the other hand, are going to give a different diagnosis, a different solution. Civil discourse has declined because the rabble have a bigger voice, because the peasants, the zealots, the non-aristocratic culture grunts, not culture warriors, are having more power, right? So think of like what our founders were debating when they thought about the House versus the Senate, and they wanted the Senate to represent a more aristocratic sensibility towards the dispute. So the agonistic solution isn't that we need to reach consensus, rather we need to teach people to fight culture wars in a sustainable way. So of course agonism, I think, would be appropriate for spaces where conflict is constant and desirable. Right? And Jim Leach, who's a former Republican representative from Iowa, has been talking about civil discourse. Here's a quote: "I think America needs an athletic democracy, the sense of people looking at fairness and the sports mentality. There's no good coach and team in America that doesn't begin with hard work and respecting your opponent. After every game, you see two teams put their arms around each other. You don't see that in politics. Sport has come up with a higher ethic than the political ethic. We need to ask ourselves if the vigorous competition in sports can be carried out. Shouldn't we expect the same of our political process?" Well, that's what I'm trying to talk about. So here are some principles that I float and discuss a little bit at the end of the paper. One, don't find ideological disagreement upsetting, unnatural, or immoral. It's a natural state of things, a constant culture war. Two, don't expect or desire to convert your ideological opponents. It's the next generation that matters. Don't even want to, because the war would die if your opponents gave up. Third, resist zealots and purists on all sides, including your own. Don't shout down opponents, not because it hampers with free inquiry, which would be the non-agonistic reasons, but because it's cheating. That's agonistic reading. Don't insult your opponents. Again, not because ad hominems don't reveal the truth, don't really attack the truth of your opponent's argument, but because it is dishonorable, because it's not, it doesn't display courtesy towards your opponents and makes the culture war sustainable. And neither an authority nor victim be, which I could only talk too long about. But we all know how this is going on in campuses with microaggression theory, with trigger warning theory, this idea that we have this problem on our campuses where students are playing the victim in order to appeal to authorities to crush their ideological opponents, right? So that's basically just cheating, right? The honorable response to conflict is to summon courage, summon strength, not ever to play the victim. So I think there are profound lessons that agonistic honor can give to civil discourse. But along with non-agonistic views of civil discourse, I'm not saying they're wrong, but this is something that we need in our hip-hop as well.
Got a few minutes for questions, so.
He didn't talk much about this, but the authoritarian is the contrary of the ludic. Traditionally, that I don't know if that distinction. I mean, there's people talk about honor. It's kind of a uniform thing. Maybe it's very interesting to think about it. It's two very different kinds of things. But then, on the other side, wouldn't one say that the ludic really will shade into the authoritarian? For example, you talked about the red and the blue champions who then despise the peasants underneath them. And in such societies, typically they rule them.
Yeah.
Is there really that much of a divide?
No, yeah, so great question. Yeah, we're talking about sort of ideal types, right, that all get mushed together in real life. But the best example of agonistic honor is athletics, right? So in athletics, you have a ranking where rank doesn't come with power. So Ohio State's the highest ranked college football team, Alabama the second ranked, but Ohio State can't make the Alabama players cut their grass or take out the trash for them, right? It's just, so it's a ranking that comes with no power implication whatsoever. Whereas authoritarian structures, like what I would consider to be a true hierarchy, like a military hierarchy, so the general does command, so those ranks come with power. And what you don't want in a good authoritarian system is for the colonel to say, I challenge you, I challenge you, general, to a knife fight or something like that. That would be a complete breakdown of authoritarian order. You move up the rankings in authoritarian orders by being promoted, right? You do your job well, and then you're supposed to be promoted from above. Okay, that's how you move up. And if you don't do your job well, you get demoted from above. That's how rank is negotiated in authoritarian systems. Whereas in agonistic systems, you move up by challenging up and winning, and by being challenged and losing. Right? So, and the logic is completely different.
In agonistic debate, though, you say you don't want zealotry, but you want an aristocratic. And I think in the agonistic debate, it lends itself to the merit being towards zealotry. So how do you avoid that in your agonistic debate? Because the people who are going to gain merit are often going to gain merit in the debate because of their zealotry. And they'll be the elite or your aristocrats. And that's where it kind of breaks down when you get to that elite, because to get to that peak, they become the zealot.
Yeah, well, that would be something like what I'm talking about, stage 1 or stage 2, where you move up your rankings in your tribe by just how many of the opponents you kill, which is like how zealous you are about killing the other side. But as you have to deal with your opponents more, so if I'm a pro-lifer and you're a pro-choicer, right, and I moved up my rankings by saying the most inflammatory things, and you moved up your rankings by saying the most inflammatory things. And then, but at some point, there's going to be someone who invites us to have a debate, right? And now we have to start talking to each other. Now we have to shake hands. Now maybe we share a meal after the debate. Now, right, all this stuff starts to happen. And that's where we have that stage 3, stage 4 stuff where we have to start, you know, we start complaining about our own sides. We start writing about that we go away under this and stuff.
If you think about Leach's idea that we need the athletic democracy, and which I'm sympathetic to actually, I'd really like to do this project. Is there a potential tension with your idea that we can't expect ideological conversion? And since I'm thinking of this, if you think of the sports, this is agonistic. We're competing based on the same conception of the good, right? So, you know, the goals scored, defensive plays, this sort of thing, whatever sport it is. Both sides agree on what's going to count as the good and what counts as winning. Can we necessarily assume that with political, ideological division, or is there a danger here that we've got just these two rival conceptions of the good and they can't agree on enough what they should be doing to even pick out who's winning or who should be ranked higher, other than, well, yeah, those blue guys are crazy. We're the ones looking at the good. No, no, the red guys don't know what the good is. We do. Listen to us.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So one way to think of what you're saying is that in athletics, your ranking is determined by your beating your opponents, and there's agreement upon who you know. But in ideological disputes, there's not going to be this agreement about who won. And so how do you move up the ranking based upon victories between ideological opponents? Yeah, well, that's good. I just do think we have to end. So
Yep.
let's get the next speaker started. But thank you very much. I'm looking forward to talking to you about it.
Okay, Steve, you're next. I'm going to stop and start the recording.